Formula One is about to make a decision that could destroy its own revolution. Not next year. Not mid-season. In a matter of days, before Miami. Behind closed doors, the FIA is pushing to change the core of the engine itself, while the CEO of Formula One and multiple top teams are actively trying to stop it. This is not a small disagreement. This is a full-scale internal conflict at the highest level of the sport. Because the same regulations that promised a 50-50 balance between electric and combustion power are already being questioned after just a few races. Cars are slowing down on straights. Drivers are lifting when they should be attacking. And teams are split between fixing the problem or protecting what they already built. But here's the part no one is saying out loud. If the FIA wins this fight, the entire concept of the new era changes. If the teams win, the problem stays. And if no one agrees, Miami could become the breaking point of modern Formula One. Because in just a few days, a single vote will decide what version of Formula One you're about to watch. And the outcome is far from guaranteed. At first, nobody wanted to say it out loud. Because admitting it this early would mean something went seriously wrong. The new regulations were supposed to be the future. A perfect balance between power and efficiency. A system designed to make Formula One more relevant, more advanced, more aligned with the world outside the track. But just 3 races in, the cracks started to show. And not small ones. Visible ones. Drivers lifting in the middle of full throttle sections. Cars losing speed when they should be gaining it. Moments that didn't feel like racing, they felt controlled, restricted, almost artificial. And here's where things get uncomfortable. Because internally, even the FIA recognized that something wasn't working as intended. Not just from a performance perspective, but from a spectacle perspective. From a safety perspective. From the very essence of what Formula One is supposed to be. And that realization triggered the first move. A meeting. Then another. Then another. Not to improve the future, but to fix the present. And that changes everything. Because Formula One almost never reacts this fast. Regulations are built years in advance. Tested. Simulated. Negotiated. Protected. So when the sport starts talking about changes after just a handful of races, that's not evolution. That's urgency. But here's the twist. Recognizing the problem was the easy part. Agreeing on the solution is where everything begins to fall apart. Because what sounds like a technical issue on the surface is actually hiding something much deeper. Different visions, different priorities, different risks. And the moment those differences collide, the sport stops moving as one. It starts pulling against itself. And that's exactly where Formula One is right now. Because once you look closer, this isn't just a disagreement. It's a collision. 3 powerful forces, all trying to protect something different. And none of them willing to step back. On one side, the FIA. They see a system that isn't behaving the way it should. Energy deployment that creates unpredictable moments. Drivers forced to think about battery algorithms instead of racing instinct. And most importantly, a growing safety concern that nobody can ignore. So their logic is direct. If the electric system is causing instability, reduce its impact. Lower the power. Stretch the energy. Bring the cars back into a window that drivers can actually control. Simple idea. But in Formula One, simple ideas rarely stay simple. Because the moment the FIA pushes that solution, they hit a wall. And that wall is built by Liberty Media. Because for them, this isn't just engineering. This is narrative. The entire identity of this new era was built around one promise. A true hybrid Formula One. A 50-50 split between combustion and electric power. Not just as a technical achievement, but as a message to the world. To manufacturers. To sponsors. To investors. And here's the problem. If you reduce the electric side now, that promise breaks. And when that promise breaks, the consequences are not just on track. They're financial. They're contractual. They're global. Because deals were signed. Partnerships were built. Billions were positioned around that vision. So from Liberty's perspective, changing the core concept is not an option. Not now. Maybe later. But not in the middle of a season, and definitely not before Miami. And just when you think this couldn't get more complicated, there's a third layer. The teams. Not all of them. But the ones with the most to lose. Because while the FIA is thinking about control, and Liberty is thinking about image, teams are thinking about one thing. Winning. And right now, there is one team that understands the system better than anyone else. They've figured it out. They've optimized it. They've turned chaos into advantage. So when they hear change, what they actually hear is, lose everything you built. And that's why resistance doesn't always look loud. Sometimes, it looks calculated, careful, Strategic. Support small tweaks. Delay big decisions. Redirect the conversation just enough to keep the foundation exactly where it is. And now, all three forces are locked in place. No one fully agreeing. No one fully backing down. And time running out. Because Miami isn't waiting. And the closer that race gets, the more dangerous this situation becomes. Because if they don't find common ground, Formula One won't just enter Miami with a problem. It will enter Miami divided. And this is where the pressure starts to shift away from the boardrooms and onto the track itself. Because while executives argue and engineers debate, drivers are the ones dealing with the consequences. Every lap, every corner, every straight where something just doesn't feel right. And when drivers start adapting their instinct to compensate for the system, that's when Formula One enters dangerous territory. Because this isn't just about going fast anymore. It's about managing something unpredictable. Energy deployment that doesn't behave the same way twice. Moments where the car suddenly loses power, not because of failure, but because the system demands it. And here's the detail that changes everything. This isn't happening in extreme conditions. This is happening in normal racing scenarios. Which means the problem isn't rare. It's constant. And that constant uncertainty creates something drivers hate more than anything else. Doubt. Because when you approach a straight at full speed, you need to know exactly what the car is going to do. Not guess. Not hope. No. But right now, that certainty isn't always there. And that's exactly why some voices inside the paddock are pushing harder than ever. Not for small tweaks. Not for cosmetic fixes. But for real, structural changes. Even if that means sacrificing performance. Even if that means going slower. Because for drivers, predictable is faster than powerful. Controlled is better than chaotic. And safe is non-negotiable. But here's where the situation becomes even more fragile. Because while drivers are asking for clarity, the system itself is becoming more complex. More dependent on software. More dependent on energy models. More dependent on calculations that happen faster than any human can react. Which creates a gap. A growing distance between what the driver feels and what the car decides to do. And in a sport built on human precision, that gap is a problem no regulation was supposed to create. But now it exists. And it's forcing the sport into a corner. Because if Formula One listens to the drivers, it has to simplify something that was designed to be complex. If it listens to the commercial side, it has to protect a system that isn't delivering the right experience. And if it does nothing, it risks something even worse. Because the longer this continues, the more normal it becomes. And once something like this becomes normal, it stops being questioned. It becomes accepted. And that is how a temporary problem turns into a permanent flaw. Which brings everything back to one moment. One decision. One vote that isn't just about Miami, but about whether Formula One is willing to correct itself before this version of the sport defines itself in the wrong way. And now, everything leads to the moment nobody inside Formula One can avoid anymore. The vote. It sounds procedural, almost routine. But this one is different. Because this isn't just about approving adjustments. It's about choosing a direction. And once that direction is chosen, there's no easy way back. Behind that vote, there are numbers. Not performance numbers. Power numbers. Because to change the regulations, you don't just need agreement. You need a supermajority. Teams, FIA, commercial rights holders, all aligned. And right now, they are anything but aligned. Which creates three possible outcomes. And every single one of them comes with consequences. The first scenario looks calm on the surface. Small changes. Mostly focused on qualifying. Tweaks to energy usage. Adjustments that make the cars easier to understand over one lap. Nothing radical. Nothing that breaks the system. Just enough to show that something was done. But here's the problem. That doesn't fix the races. It doesn't solve the core issue. It just delays it. And in Formula One, delaying a problem usually makes it bigger. The second scenario is where things get serious. Because this is where the FIA pushes further. Not just qualifying, but the race itself. Changes to how energy is deployed. How it's recovered. How the system behaves over an entire stint. This is the version where Formula One starts to feel different. More natural. More predictable. Closer to what drivers expect. But also, more controversial. Because now, the teams that built their advantage on the current system have something real to lose. And when teams have something to lose, they fight. Not in public, but where it matters. In the vote. Which brings us to the third scenario. The one nobody wants to admit, but everyone is preparing for. Nothing changes. No agreement. No majority. No solution in time. And Miami goes ahead, exactly as things are now. Same behavior. Same concerns. Same questions, but with even more attention on them. Because by that point, everyone will be watching for the problem. Waiting for it. Expecting it. And if it shows up again, it won't just be a technical issue anymore. It becomes a statement that Formula One saw the problem and couldn't fix it. But here's the part that makes this even more intense. There is one hidden card. One option the FIA holds that could override everything. The power to act in the name of safety. A rule that allows them to push changes even without full agreement. And that changes the entire dynamic. Because now, this isn't just a vote. It's a standoff. If the FIA believes the situation is serious enough, they can force the decision. But if they do that, they risk something even bigger than a technical failure. They risk breaking the fragile balance between regulation, business, and competition. And once that balance breaks, it's not easy to rebuild. So now the question isn't just what will happen. It's who is willing to take responsibility for what happens next. Because every option carries risk. Approve small changes, and the problem survives. Approve big changes, and the system's credibility takes a hit. Do nothing, and the entire world sees it. Force a decision, and the internal war becomes public. And all of this, just days before Miami. Which means when those cars hit the track, you won't just be watching a race. You'll be watching the result of a conflict that almost tore the sport apart. And the most important part is that the real consequences of that decision won't be visible immediately. They'll unfold, lap by lap, moment by moment, until one detail, one incident, one unexpected situation reveals whether Formula One made the right call or avoided it.